Chapter 1. The fan signing that changed everything. The fluorescent lights of the event hall buzzed softly above, dulled by the roar of chatter, excited squeals, and the rustle of glossy book pages. Quinlan Rice sat behind a crimson-draped table with a smirk permanently plastered on his face. Sharpie poised like a weapon as he signed copy after copy of his Alpha's secret baby bondmate, Mpreg Mayhem Edition. His newest spicy BL release had fans buzzing both online and offline, and the turnout today proved it. Flashing cameras, armfuls of merch, and shrieks of, "I love you, Quinn," surrounded him like a concert. He was in his element, feisty, flirtatious, and feeding off the crowd's energy like a drama-loving vampire. "You're even hotter in person," said a blushing fan who wore a cosplay of his main character, down to the pregnant belly bump. Quinlan winked and signed the book. "To my favorite fake baby daddy. Keep the craving spicy." He sent her off giggling, already moving to the next in line, the rhythm of interaction well practiced until the energy shifted. A figure approached. No squeals, no fanboy sparkles, just quiet, cold presence wrapped in a custom charcoal suit. Sunglasses indoors, gloves, shoes that looked expensive enough to fund a small country. Quinlan paused, his Sharpie hovering mid-air as the stranger placed his book on the table. Not the usual cover version either. It was a rare limited edition copy, only 50 had been printed, and this one was pristine. "You're my favorite author," the man said, voice deep enough to make the air thrum. Quinlan raised a brow. "That's nice. Still doesn't get you a free autograph, sweetheart." The man's lips quirked, not quite a smile. "I wouldn't dream of it." There was something unsettling in his gaze, something hungry. Quinlan dismissed it as eccentric rich guy vibes, until hours later when the event ended, and he stepped into the dim parking garage behind the venue. Alone. That's when it all went black. When Quinlan woke up, the first thing he noticed was the scent. Too clean, too expensive. Then the silk sheets. Then the towering windows that revealed a sprawling city skyline he didn't recognize. And then the walls, covered in posters, his book covers, fan art, blown-up quotes from his novels in expensive gilded frames. Even the plush couch cushions were embroidered with chibi versions of his characters. There was a mug on the nightstand that said, "World's #1 Quinlan Stan." "What the actual F?" Quinlan began, sitting up fast, only to see a tray of pancakes waiting for him. And a man standing across the room pouring orange juice into a glass with the same calm energy of a serial killer watering plants. Daxton Rain. Billionaire, media tycoon, alleged corporate assassin, and apparently now a Quinlan Rice simp. "You're awake," Daxton said softly, walking over and placing the glass beside the tray like he hadn't just abducted a human being. Quinlan blinked. "This is kidnapping." Daxton tilted his head, amused. "It's a long-term fan meet. I'm calling the police." Daxton slipped a phone out of his pocket and handed it over. "Already deactivated. But we can play pretend if it makes you feel better." Quinlan stared at him, trying to process the sheer insanity of the situation. The penthouse, the shrine-level fandom, the man who looked like he'd walked out of a GQ Mafia spread but spoke with the worshipful calm of a cult leader. "You're insane." Daxton smiled, that small, unnerving curve of lips. "You wrote about me before we even met. I'd say that makes us soulmates." And just like that, Quinlan realized something terrifying. He was trapped in one of his own over-the-top novels. Only this time, he wasn't the author. He was the main character, and Daxton Rain was the obsessive, smitten billionaire, with no understanding of boundaries. Chapter 2. My captor cooks in a simp apron. Quinlan Rice prided himself on two things: writing scandalously addictive BL novels and never falling for his own tropes. Yet here he was, locked in a penthouse that smelled like vanilla bean and pine, sitting on a velvet chaise surrounded by fan art of his own characters, held captive by a billionaire with a fanboy complex and a face sculpted by the gods of villainy. He wasn't going to take it lying down. The escape attempt began at 3:07 a.m. Armed with nothing but a decorative letter opener and the fiery rage of a writer whose deadlines had been interrupted, Quinlan padded barefoot through the marble hallway, aiming for the elevator. He had memorized the floor plan the moment he woke up here. He'd even studied the rhythm of the security cameras and the odd way the doorknobs turned. Every twist, every turn perfectly plotted because he had written this exact escape sequence before. Which is why he should have known. As soon as he reached the elevator and jammed the button, it dinged open, not to freedom, but to Daxton Rain, shirtless and sleepy-eyed, holding 2 mugs of hot cocoa and a box labeled Emergency Cuddles. "You used Scene 27 from Omega's Runaway Redemption," Daxton said with a small pout. "I thought you might." Quinlan stared in open horror. "You memorized my books that well?" "I annotated them," Daxton replied, unbothered, stepping out of the elevator. "Color-coded tabs and everything." "You are so getting written into my next novel as a psychotic side character with no redemption arc." Daxton's eyes widened. He clutched his heart as if mortally wounded. "You wouldn't. I will burn your character development." And that was how Quinlan found himself once again back inside the suite, sitting at a table while Daxton, yes, Daxton Rain, destroyer of stock markets, fumbled with a spatula in the kitchen. His normally sleek hair was messily tied back, his black robe open just enough to reveal unfairly perfect abs, and around his waist was an apron that read, #1 Quinlan Simp, will cook for cuddles. The pancakes were burnt. The kitchen smelled like syrup and mild despair, and Quinlan was trying not to laugh. I wanted to make your favorite," Daxton muttered, poking at the charred mess with the tragic air of a man who could buy the moon, but not master the stove. "You kidnapped me, and you're guilt-tripping me with breakfast?" Quinlan asked, crossing his arms. Daxton looked up with heartbreakingly genuine puppy eyes. "Only because I love you." Quinlan choked on his orange juice. "What?" "I've loved you since the first book. Then the live streams, the blog posts, the quanda, where you talked about your ideal type. Which I now regret sharing with the internet," Quinlan muttered. "And then came Chapter 8 in the Alpha's Forbidden Heat Bond. That was when I knew." Quinlan blinked. "Wait, that scene?" Daxton's gaze softened with dangerous fondness. "The soulmate reveal under the blood moon. You said it wasn't based on real feelings, but I knew. I knew you wrote that for me." Quinlan stared at him. "You're insane. I'm devoted." Which is just Latin for insane. But Daxton wasn't just crazy. He was powerful. The full scope of that hit Quinlan a few weeks later, when Daxton casually turned on the TV as they ate breakfast in what had become their unspoken Cold War truce. The news anchor's face was solemn as she reported, "Tet. Mysterious disappearances of several public figures last night, all known for past controversies involving..." Quinlan's spoon froze midair. The screen showed a rapid slideshow of familiar faces. A few models, an influencer, a smug editor who once ghosted him mid-series contract. His ex-flings. Gone. Vanished. "Coincidence," Quinlan muttered, trying to breathe through the rising panic. Daxton didn't even look up from the table. "I thought you'd be happier without them. They didn't deserve to be part of your narrative." "Oh my God. I was merciful. They're not dead. Just relocated." Quinlan stared at him. "Relocated where?" Daxton gave a mild shrug. "Somewhere without internet or mouths." That night, Daxton brought him a plushie, the exact same kind Quinlan had once posted about wanting in a long-forgotten tweet. Quinlan hesitated before hugging it to his chest. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Don't mention it," Daxton said, almost shy. "Just keep it close." It wasn't until hours later, when Quinlan idly squeezed the plushie's belly, that he felt a small bump inside. He narrowed his eyes. "That son of a... You put a tracker in this, didn't you?" he shouted from the living room. Daxton peeked around the corner, unbothered, holding a bowl of strawberries and whipped cream. "Baby, I already track your emotional moods based on your fan tweets. You think I wouldn't GPS your comfort, plushie?" You are deranged. I am in love. And while Quinlan spent the next few hours ranting into a mirror and plotting yet another escape route, which Daxton probably already knew, he also couldn't ignore something else. His stomach had been queasy for days. His back ached. He'd burst into tears at a cereal commercial earlier. And though he told himself it was stress, deep down, he knew something else was happening. He refused to think about it, refused to say the word. But the thought lingered as Daxton spoon-fed him whipped cream and muttered about buying an island shaped like Quinlan's face. Something was changing. And somehow, Quinlan had a terrible, horrifying, utterly irresistible feeling that he was falling headfirst into the exact kind of unhinged, possessive billionaire fantasy he once wrote to entertain readers. Only this time, the stakes were real. But before he could process any of it, Daxton brought out the real insanity. A ring and a printed-out wedding guest list. "I want to marry you," he declared, in the same tone one might use to say I bought us matching toothbrushes. Quinlan blinked. "You want what now?" "Marry me. You'll never have to worry about anything again. I already have the venue, your favorite flowers, the cake designed to look like the first edition of your debut novel. I haven't even said yes." "You will," Daxton said confidently. "I know your type. You can't resist a dramatic gesture wrapped in tailored suits and pathetic devotion." Quinlan tried to refuse. He really did. But when someone rents out an entire country estate, builds a garden modeled after your book setting, and walks down the aisle wearing cufflinks engraved with your fan fiction username, how does one not get emotionally blackmailed? So Quinlan Rice, spicy novelist, national treasure of sass and scandal, ended up saying yes. The wedding was ridiculous, lavish beyond comprehension, the kind of affair that made the front page of every magazine. People gawked, billionaires whispered, reporters clutched their pearls. Daxton Rain, who had never been seen with anyone publicly without ending their career, was caught on camera, feeding cake to Quinlan like an enamored golden retriever in love. He kissed Quinlan's hand like a knight and cried when the vows started rhyming. The world was stunned. Daxton, he couldn't care less. Let them talk, let them whisper. Let them panic over how the coldest, most feared man in the world now woke up at 6 a.m. just to cook heart-shaped pancakes for his husband and tuck him in with 7 layers of blankets, just in case he gets chilly. Because Quinlan Rice was now his. And Daxton Rain was never letting go. Chapter 3. Surprise, you're pregnant with your stalker's baby. Quinlan Rice had written a lot of insane plotlines, secret identities, accidental marriages, love triangles involving a shapeshifter and his twin, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality he now faced in the marble-tiled bathroom of his penthouse prison-turned-honeymoon suite. 2 pink lines. He stared at the test like it had personally betrayed him. "No," Quinlan whispered. No, this is not happening." But it was. 3 sticks, 3 very pink, very stubborn lines. His stomach had been weird for weeks, his moods were all over the place, and he had cried over a commercial where a hedgehog got a new hat. And now the final boss, pregnancy confirmation. He staggered out of the bathroom with the evidence clenched in his fist, only to freeze as he came face to face with him. Daxton Rain, billionaire husband, obsessive stalker, and part-time breakfast disaster stood at the doorway with his arms full of neatly folded baby blankets in pastel colors. His eyes dropped to the test in Quinlan's hand. The world stopped. Daxton's pupils dilated like a predator scenting blood. Or in this case, air. "Oh my God," he whispered, voice cracking with unholy glee. "You're pregnant." "No, I'm delusional," Quinlan snapped, shoving the tests behind his back. "False positive. Happens all the time. Maybe the test was expired. Maybe I've been drinking too much orange juice." But it was too late. Daxton's face lit up like the 4th of July mixed with Valentine's Day. He dropped the baby blankets like they were meaningless and rushed to Quinlan, dropping to his knees in front of him with an expression so worshipful it should have been illegal. "You're carrying my child," he breathed, pressing his cheek against Quinlan's abdomen like it was sacred. "I knew it. I felt it." "You what?" I had dreams, vivid ones, of you, glowing, nesting, cursing me while eating pickles dipped in chocolate. I thought they were just fantasies, but this—" He looked up with tears in his eyes. "This is fate." Quinlan slapped his hands away. "Back off, Daxton. This is not a Hallmark drama, and I'm not about to let you baby-trap me like I'm a B-grade web novel plotline." "But you are my soulmate. We're married. The baby just completes our arc." Before Quinlan could yell something unforgivable involving rusty spoons and cancel prenups, Daxton clapped his hands twice. Within seconds, the suite was swarmed. Men in black suits with earpieces and unsettling enthusiasm entered from hidden doors and windows. Some held baby monitors. One had a pregnancy pillow already fluffed. Another unfolded what looked like a full birthing tub. "What the hell is happening?" Quinlan shrieked. "We're relocating," Daxton announced, scooping him into his arms bridal style before Quinlan could protest. "To the baby bunker." "The what?" "Luxurious countryside safe house. Custom-built nursery. Panic room filled with prenatal vitamins. Guarded 24/7 by my most elite security team / book club." "Book club? They've read all your novels, twice. They weep openly during angst chapters. I am in hell." Despite his screams and kicks, Daxton carried him like a man on a mission. By sunset, Quinlan was ensconced in what could only be described as a billionaire's fever dream of a maternity suite. Sunken tub, silk sheets, a mural of his book cover characters across the ceiling, and of course, his own face embroidered onto every throw pillow. There was even a butler named Winston who offered herbal foot baths to soothe the Omega spirit. Quinlan nearly had an aneurysm trying to explain he was not an Omega. He collapsed onto the enormous cloud-like bed, shoving away a stuffed dragon wearing a #Daxton baby onesie. "I can't do this," he muttered into the silk pillowcase. "I need to find out who the father is. I need—" And that's when it hit him. That night, months ago, the book award gala, the rooftop bar, the champagne, the man with the deep voice who found him crying in a stairwell because someone had called his book too emotional. They'd talked. He'd felt safe. One thing led to another, a hotel room. Strong arms, no names, no face. Just shadows and comfort, and Quinlan sat up with a gasp. It couldn't be. His mind screamed denial. His heart, uneasily quiet. But when Daxton entered moments later with a tray of freshly cut fruit, humming the same song Quinlan vaguely remembered from that night, he knew. "Oh my God," Quinlan whispered. Daxton tilted his head, concerned. "Are the strawberries too sour?" "It was you," Quinlan muttered, voice shaking. "You were that guy. That night." Daxton blinked innocently. "Which night?" "The night." A smile curled on Daxton's lips. "I knew you'd figure it out eventually." You planned this?" "I didn't know you'd be fertile that night," Daxton said calmly, setting the tray down. "But the universe clearly wanted us to be a family." "You're insane. I'm a romantic." Quinlan groaned, dragging a pillow over his face. "I hate you so much. You'll love me again when I massage your ankles tonight." And Quinlan, angry, hormonal, in a luxury prison of affection, realized something far worse than being kidnapped, married, and pregnant. He might already be halfway there. Chapter 4. You're the Father. Quinlan had planned his escape meticulously, right down to the timing of Daxton's 6 a.m. Pilates and smoothie hour. Wrapped in 3 layers of black hoodies, sunglasses that belonged to one of Daxton's overly friendly guards, and enough sass-fueled determination to inspire a trilogy, he tiptoed past the nursery Daxton was building, only to find the elevator password-protected and voice-locked to Daxton's fanboy purr. "Quinlan Rice is the love of my life, and I'd burn the world for him." Quinlan muttered profanities not allowed in print, turned, and bolted for the stairs, only to be greeted by, "Going somewhere, sunshine?" Daxton stood at the foot of the staircase in a full 3-piece suit, holding an enormous bouquet of crimson roses. Behind him trailed 3 bodyguards carrying gifts labeled First Kick Celebration, Morning Sickness Survival Kit, and Pregnancy is Just Foreplay. Let's talk about baby #2. Quinlan froze mid-step. How did you? Daxton smiled, with all the unsettling calm of a man who'd once bankrupted a country over a bad restaurant review. You think I wouldn't have the mansion surveillance synced to your heartbeat? I will drown you in alphabet soup, Quinlan hissed. Daxton closed the distance, eyes dark with affection and very unhealthy obsession. You're glowing today, probably from the adrenaline rush. That's my baby's influence. Quinlan tried to shove past him. Daxton didn't budge. I'm leaving, Daxton. You're literally carrying my air, Daxton said, unbothered. You leave, I leave. With your legs thrown over my shoulder and a trail of crushed nations behind us. Romantic, Quinlan deadpanned. Do you threaten everyone you love? Only you, because you're the only one who runs. I'm going to write you as a villain in my next novel, Quinlan snapped. You'll be bald, and have an inferiority complex about your eyebrows. Daxton blinked. You wouldn't. Watch me. He flattened cities because someone once said his eyebrows looked economy class. The billionaire actually gasped. My eyebrows are premium. I've created a monster, Quinlan groaned, pressing both hands to his forehead. And married it. Daxton leaned closer, eyes softening. You created my obsession. Now you're creating our baby. I'd destroy planets to make you smile for a second longer. You scare me. You arouse me. Gross. Daxton offered him a single rose from the bouquet. Truce? Quinlan stared at the flower like it was laced with pheromones and bad decisions. Only if you stop acting like I'm a decorative vase that screams at you. You are, Daxton said solemnly. But you're my vase. I swear to God, Daxton kissed his forehead. Quinlan shoved the flower in his mouth. And somewhere in the distance, a bodyguard wept quietly over their OTP coming true. Chapter 5. Happily Ever Obsession. Pregnancy did not slow Quinlan down. If anything, it gave him more material. Especially after Daxton had a custom-built, soundproof writing studio constructed in the shape of his latest book cover, complete with mood lighting, an espresso machine that only made his exact preferred roast, and a plush drama throne for dramatic monologues and mid-scene breakdowns. There was even a framed plaque outside that read, Home of the world's sassiest pregnant author, and his billionaire stalker husband. Every morning began with Quinlan typing in silk pajamas while Daxton floated around like a butler on steroids, serving foot massages with breakfast, banning loud bird chirps near the property, and calling the chef to remake a croissant because the butter layer ratio was off. He even installed a special emergency button labeled Hormonal Meltdown Response. Quinlan used it daily. I hate you, Quinlan would mutter between mood swings. I love when you express your feelings, Daxton would coo, stroking his belly like a shrine. Our baby just kicked. I think it agrees. As the months passed, their dynamic didn't change much, still full of bickering, chaos, and an overwhelming amount of love that neither would admit directly. Daxton remained impossibly clingy. Quinlan remained delightfully annoyed, and the baby? Well, the baby enjoyed the drama. And then came the day. The delivery happened in a private luxury birthing suite that looked more like a 5-star honeymoon resort. Daxton fainted at the first contraction, then again when the doctor said the word crowning. Quinlan screamed profanities, hurled an iPad, and threatened to name the baby Plot Twist if Daxton didn't stop passing out like a Victorian maiden. After 16 hours, a baby was born with Daxton's intense glare and Quinlan's unrivaled sass, a perfect mix of disaster and delight. Flash forward. 6 months later, their home was louder, messier, happier. Daxton had turned into the kind of dad who cried when the baby sneezed and laminated every drawing, even the one that was just a blob with fangs. Quinlan had returned to writing, his books now even spicier, with bonus chapters inspired by real-life domestic chaos. One night, Daxton stood in the living room wearing a full tuxedo. In his hands, a velvet box and a 112-page self-written Quinlan x Daxton fanfiction titled Marry Me Again, You Grumpy Muse. Quinlan sat on the couch with their baby nestled in his lap, raising an unimpressed brow. Didn't we already do this? Yes, Daxton said seriously. But now you've given me the greatest gift, a child, and I must honor it with a second marriage. You wrote yourself as a dragon who burns down kingdoms just because I blinked at another prince, Quinlan pointed out, flipping through the fic. Daxton knelt. Art imitates life. Quinlan sighed, then smiled. I guess marrying my #1 fan isn't that bad after all. They kissed. Daxton cried. The baby burped. Then Daxton casually handed him a gold-embossed plane ticket. Quinlan blinked. What's this? Our private island. Bought it for our first family vacation. No paparazzi. Just palm trees, ocean. And me obsessing over you while you tan. Quinlan rolled his eyes. As long as there's Wi-Fi. Daxton beamed. And a button to mute seagulls. Quinlan snorted. I'm keeping you. And so they lived happily ever after, with their chaotic love, their dramatic baby, and a possessive billionaire who would burn the world just to fix Quinlan's pillow fluff.